Kuzuzangbo. In this program, we have a panelist of experts on renewable energy who are here to attend the conclave. Starting from my right, we have Professor A.G. Iyer, the President of Inertia Foundation, and we have Dr. Hardish Khanna, the Director General of Renewable Energy Promotion Association, based in Europe, and we have Mr. P.V. S.N. Murthy, who is the Regional Director of Inertia Journal, based in Delhi. Welcome to the show. Professor, can you give me the brief outline of conclave tomorrow?
Yeah, the 6th Hydrovision Conclave 2013, which is being held in Thimphu, Bhutan. It is the first time the conclave has come here. Although we in 2008, Inertia Foundation 2008 brought the 10,000 megawatt hydropower initiative discussion also at the same location. So it's very interesting that we are coming exactly after 5 years at a time when Bhutan has already grown about 2,500 megawatt of hydropower. And now the right time to look at further progress of hydropower, not even 10 gigawatt, but maybe expand it further to 15 to 20 gigawatt in the first stage. And then think of a renewable mix for Bhutan, not only on hydro, but create a larger basket for it,
So when you're talking about renewable mix, I'd like to ask Dr. Khanna, what should be the mix like?
Yeah, the mix in renewables has a very vast variety actually, and one has to look at the resources which one has. So I think from Bhutan, naturally, as Professor has mentioned, hydro is one aspect of it. The other aspect which we really see is also the solar power, and I think that would be a good mix for Bhutan, because hydro is developed, but the cost of hydro is very heavy, and whereas solar on a micro level could be a very, very viable solution for Bhutan actually. So this is what I would suggest.
So Mr. Murthy, you have also worked in Bhutan in the past for Chuka hydropower project.
Yes.
So tell us, do you think it is viable for us to have that mix now?
Yeah, this is quite possible to have the mix in Bhutan right now, because you need to have a proper mix of hydro plus solar, which is quite good, and that's where you must have your basket has to improve. You cannot have all the basket of only hydro in Bhutan. So you must initiate the actions required for the solar parallel to the hydro development. That's very feasible.
Professor Iyer, could you tell us what kind of business model we should follow from here on? The kind of model that we have is government to government.
Yeah. See,
Are
actually,
we thinking of change?
Actually, I am a constructive critic of the movement both for India and Bhutan. Both of us are in one direction, that we want to expand the hydro while we parallelly want to create a basket which is essential to keep it successful. So public-private participation, I must say clearly here, is the way forward. You cannot limit it to only intergovernment participation. Unless the people of Bhutan and the people of India, when I say that, then it means entrepreneurs of India and entrepreneurs of Bhutan do not have joint sector development here. It is not possible to achieve larger targets. It is not possible to bring larger investments into the game. And it is in the interest of both the nations and its people that we have public-private participation. So role of Bhutan's private sector is extremely critical along with India's private sector in this game plan of future growth. That is the model I'm advising, because that will make your whole sector competitive. It will raise capital. It will bring investments. And this investment climate can only develop if there is a reasonable amount of private participation.
Okay. But the capacity that we have from the Bhutanese side, we cannot question the capacity of Indian counterpart, but at the same time, it has been questioned in the past whether we, our local businessmen here, have a capacity to participate in a project like this.
So I can answer that question very well. See, if you give an opportunity to businessmen, because the same was said about Indian businessmen about 40 years back. And I think in 1995, when we actually liberalized, that's the time the Indian economy threw up great entrepreneurs. I remember Reliance was a company which was a 40,000 crores company. That means roughly about $8 billion at the time. Today, the Reliance is 3 lakh crores. So it is a 16 to $20 billion company in barely less than a decade. So, and we have every company like that. Tata is almost a better size than that. Birla is better size than that. Today, Adani, a new company, is now 40,000 crores entity. Can you believe it? Adani is now the Reliance of yesterday. So if you don't give opportunity to the private sector, no private sector anywhere in the world will develop. So even for Bhutan, if you do not give opportunity, you will keep questioning the capacity. Give an opportunity, take the path for 2 years, 3 years, and then talk about whether they can perform or not. Give them the chance.
Dr. Khanna, how will that, from your experience, how will that influence the revenue of a country?
Oh, I think that has a very positive effect, because if you take the example of Europe, especially in Germany, what we did, we created a legal framework for that actually. So the legal framework was giving the people the chance to operate and create revenue plus create jobs over there. The idea was to creating jobs will again give benefit to the community and give benefit to the people. And I think that is a very, very good proposition for Bhutan also, because we need energy everywhere in every form today. And we cannot live without energy. So the idea is, how can we give buying power to the people? And buying power means giving them jobs, and jobs can be created through renewable energies.
Absolutely.
So this would be one aspect of that, you see.
So when you're talking about the mix of energy that we have, of course I'm throwing this question to Mr. Murthy. So can we use the same grid to transfer energy, the solar and the hydro, from the same grid?
Yes, it's possible to put the same into the same grid, and you have to have a good grid management. And solar being the continuous time flow during the peak hours, you can continuously send the solar power to the utilization, and you can modulate the hydropower if needed. And hydro is always, you can peak it or reduce it. It's much faster to bring a hydro project at various levels of this one. So it's always, solar will become your best power, and which will, throughout the time period of solar availability, you put it to the grid and export it if you want.
I will give you a further aspect of this. One of the biggest management of international grids for anywhere in the world is frequency. So just putting the hydropower where there is a fluctuation from the peak, at the time when you have maximum generation in the beyond after monsoon, and to the time we taper off. So hydropower generates sometimes 120% of the power that you have rated, and at times 25%. So the vagaries of hydropower can be actually modulated using solar on the grid. So solar will bring the frequency control, and it will give you better quality of power which you sell to India, and you will not lose revenues. The second most important point is you are developing a smart grid. India is already in the smart grid access. The agencies working with you, including the Power Grid Corporation, are at the forefront of smart grid development. So if they are at the forefront, I do not think in any way the Bhutan Power Corporation can be at the back end of the power generation. They must also go into a smart grid. So important to export the whole basket of renewable energy. And I would give you the quantum of mix. Today, if 100 points is, let us say, 100% you are having hydro, then I think you must bring in, over a period of next 4 or 5 years, at least 5% from solar. That must be the type of target that you must develop, and then go forward to a 10 to 12% model in the mix, in the basket. That will balance your ability to generate. Second most important point, hydro you can construct in 10 years or in 7 years. A solar power plant will come onto the grid in barely 6 months. In India, the 214 megawatt solar power park in Gujarat, which is the Charanka on the border of Pakistan, came in exactly 1 year. 214 megawatt in a year. So don't you see an economic benefit of getting time to market and selling the commercial power in short time? So Bhutan's currency crisis, there is an answer which is lying in solar.
That is one thing about, but the other things, when we are talking about mix and the power supply to India,
Right.
could you tell us, are we getting the maximum out of this present model, or is B2B going to give us a better pricing in the market?
If I may say so, I think B2B will be a very, very good model, because the whole essence of growth lies in the hands of the entrepreneurs. So you have to create the framework to allow the entrepreneurs to work in there actually. And I think the pricing models will also improve, because as soon as you have a cost competitive situation and you're benefiting from it, you are getting stronger on a certain level. And that level again gives you an advantage of a bargaining power. So there are 2 steps to it. One is to give the people the power, because people need the power. Second is you have to hear the people, hear their voice, what they're deprived of. So no growth can take place without power. So the question is, how do I structure it? And that is a very, very important factor, and that is where the policymakers come into the picture. So once the policymakers are coming into the picture, then the private entrepreneurs will work on that, because they know there is a stability into the policy and there's a reliable policy on a long-term basis. Then investments will start taking place actually, and that is the way to do it.
So even before we start, we should be thinking about power policy, strong power policy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So absolutely, there's a policy is required for this. That means the Bhutanese government has to come out with a solar policy, which is required for the country. And the type of solar policy, the benefits of that they have to come out with a policy requirement. And that also has to talk about the development of hydro, the mix, what they would like to plan, and there should be a time plan by which they should be giving this target, and then work out. And then if it is coming to, as already our panelists have said, the time period for coming out for a solar plant is very less. So that's where the entrepreneurs will be much faster to put it up in the grid. And also you see some of the areas where in Bhutan, remote areas, where you can't lay the lines and everything, there you can have independent solar plants which can circulate to the power supply to the local areas itself. That itself is also becomes part of your policy guidelines. And also for the people who would like to invest in solar, there should be certain benefits to be given by the government, which are the solar policies which are available in the Indian country talks about these things. So that's where the policy guidelines are required for solar to develop in this country. And Bhutan has abundant requirement, what I will say, abundant of solar potential.
Potential next to.
I tell you, after Ladakh is the best power potential for solar in the world. So Bhutan, I would say, comes second, just second to only Ladakh. So in that form, solar is essential. But now I want to come to your first question, which is still not answered according to me by us. That is there an alternate mechanism of sale of proceeds of power? The answer is yes, and that is the energy exchange model. See, right now, energy exchange and power pooling are the critical aspects that must come in your power policy. And that power policy of Bhutan must be called the Renewable and Green and Sustainable Energy Policy of Bhutan, and in which you will have an alternate price, like you don't have to stick to a 2 rupees, 3 rupees model and discuss it and continues. The parallel energy exchange model, because India has a very powerful energy exchange called the Indian Energy Exchange, which is a public-private body. So right now you're doing it through the Power Trading Corporation model, which purchases power and does it. And Power Trading Corporation is also one of the founding members of the Indian Energy Exchange. So the solar and other renewables, or even the new electricity, you can find an alternate market mechanism of time of day market, where the prices will be higher paid for that. So I would say start with solar in a small way without disturbing your hydro. Let the hydro deal go on and go with solar through the energy exchange model. You commercialize it. The moment you commercialize, and this will not impact the pool price of electricity, because in, let's say, 5,000 megawatt of, let us say, hydropower, if you put only 5%, which is, I am saying, how much, 10% would be about 500 megawatt, but we are saying 250 megawatt of solar, it would not impact the whole price in a big way. So that must be your target, and that is going in a separate route and doesn't come into this while India purchases. So this is an electricity market mechanism for purchase of electricity, where consumers who badly need electricity on the eastern and other corridor, including north, because the line is going up to the north, the Tala line, which is the power links transmission line, it goes right into the heart of Delhi via Varanasi. So you can sell to north and east of India straight away to consumers who want to buy through the exchange. That is the commercially viable model. And no government, neither the Bhutan government has to help in this, nor the Indian government has to help. They have to simply allow an exchange mechanism to operate in joint sector. Immediately your private sector is in. I'm giving the solution clearly to you right now here on the BBS.
Okay, the other concern that we have is the cost of production, the cost of constructing hydropowers in Bhutan.
Right.
It's escalating, it's increasing every year. Is there a way that we can bring down the cost?
The cost of hydropower is, you see, how is the cost coming up? It has basic components. In a hydropower, basically it is a civil plus electromechanical equipment. Civil components varies about, it could be 60 to 40 or 70 to 30 depending on the type of the project, whether it is a run-of-the-river project or it is a dam-based project. So the civil construction cost and the E&M equipment cost. In fact, if you see in India, the E&M costs are really not going up. they are in fact coming down in some of the cases, because you need competition. In the A&M equipment, there is a big competition in India, and you need same type of competition to be available in Bhutan for you to reduce the costs. That's very primary importance. That means you must have a model by which you are creating a competition to get best prices for you. Then the cost will definitely come down. And similarly, the civil concepts depends on the type of civil contractors you are using and how you are optimizing the cost and the methods. So there is always civil ways and the components from where you are procuring. For example, in civil, a lot of cement and steel, how it gets procured, from where it's coming up. There is the cost and the logistic costs which are adding up for any project in Bhutan. That means transportation of the main things
Absolutely.
to the country. That is the cost which needs to be looked into that. And how you are going to source these from where. That's where the cost will be coming down.
I'll give you one very important point in this. See, in a hilly terrain like Bhutan, transporting large generators and turbine, there is no infrastructure, which is as bad as some of the Indian hilly states. Because to carry a 200 or 400 ton equipment on your roads, it is not possible. So that cost of transportation is so high for Bhutan that ultimately the electromechanical actual cost is beyond imagination compared to other regions. And the insurances are very high for this. That is one area. The other area which is cost escalation is, unless you have cement and steel procurement within the boundaries of Bhutan, that means at least you make clinker here and then start making packing and grinding plant locally. Unless we have some model where you invite the cement manufacturers of India like JP and maybe India Cements and the Tatas also are in cement, to establish joint sector cement operation here with your partners here, you will not get cement at a lower price. We are transporting the whole cement from India to hilly terrain. So these are adding to your costs. And then comes the construction techniques, as he rightly said, using what machinery, what technology, what lowering of costs and all those. So a combination of these factors will continue to increase your hydropower cost, because civil costs are not coming down worldwide. They're only going up, right? But they're not going up as much in, let's say, other location where its accessibility is there, production is there, sourcing is there, in comparison to Bhutan where everything is going to come out from India or other places. So you need to make some self-sufficiency. I'm not saying you supply 100%. Initially, 25% of the cement, steel and construction equipment should come from some places of Bhutan. That must be your 5-year target for the next 5-year plan or 7-year plan, whatever you want to do. Bhutan must have a target to generate industrial production for its own consumption as well. So then there is an equanimity in the participation. Costs will come down in the long run. And as rightly said, electromechanical also. You can bring down the cost if you improve your infrastructure. Why not have joint sector infrastructure construction for corridor between India and Bhutan for transport of large equipment and large cargo? Unless you do that transportation model, at least from the eastern side, with current road conditions, you will never get the cost down. Because the good, and I will give you an example. The biggest transporters from India, like J.H. Parabia, I'm naming a transporter, does not even operate in Bhutan. His name does not come. And they are the ones who are taking maximum equipment of BHEL, the Alstoms and the Voids in our country, in India. These transporters have not even put their foot in Bhutan. I tried my best to bring them here this time, but it was not feasible. Maybe the next time they come.
Like that?
So the competition, again I use the word competition, is to be brought in, and you must have more number of contractors. And logistics is a very critical part. And if you break down the cost, see the cost of the logistics, which are coming quite high for some of these things. Unless this is worked out, and this is where the basic concept has to go up, then the cost will come down. And another thing is competition has to be there for various items. You cannot have less competition means your prices will be almost either going up or stabilizing, but they will never come down. But if you see worldwide, most of the places, the prices are either stable or they're coming down. We are seeing in India some of the prices, what was ordered last year, the price is much lower today. So it's a question of the competition for the components for which you are going to have the part of the equipments. And the second one is the logistics, which is very, very critical for the country like Bhutan. That's where the lot of money is going into that.
Okay, Dr. Khanna, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, let me add a little bit to that on the solar aspect, actually. I think specifically when these points are mentioned, and I am coming from big plants from the energy side. I know both the things, renewables and conventional energy. So looking at the solar, I'll just give you an example. When the revolution in the solar energy on the photovoltaic started, we had a price level of about $7,500 to $8,000 per kilowatt actually. Today that price level within the last 3 to 4 years has come down to $1,000 per kilowatt roughly actually. So looking at that and looking at your logistic costs, I mean, solar panels weigh also, but they don't weigh as much as a turbine weighs
Absolutely.
actually. So that logistic cost will also come down if you provide solar power over here. And the second aspect of that is your gestation period is low. So your project cost comes down completely. So in that way you benefit from that angle also. So we are talking of micro level operations over here, which will benefit as an independent power producer on a small scale basis and give power, and you can export power. You have both the possibilities. You can make large plants, small plants, make a plant mix of that, but you are in operation within 6 months to 1 year depending upon the size of the plant, which you can never expect from the other types of plants actually. So that's why I said this mix is combined now with hydro and then taking up to solar will benefit the country a lot. And when you have your own power, then you can increase the price also, you see, and that is where your first question was, where is my revenue coming from? So my revenue is coming from, first of all, that I'm giving power to my people, so I don't need that power, and I have more power, abundant power, which I can export to the other countries, you see. So maybe that clarifies both the sides. One is the cost, and second is the value chain, how I am optimizing my value chain in the whole concept of the power distribution.
I will also tell you one more point. Today solar is at 6.5 crore rupees per megawatt and also translating into efficiency at 6.5 rupees per unit. So hydro, you're at 9 to 10 crores per megawatt. So already the answer is there, which is cheaper. And the gestation is just 6 months to 12 months to build the plant. So solar is your answer to the trouble that you have.
We have now.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, we have enough hydropower going on now.
That's
we
right.
should concentrate on
Solar.
Yeah,
solar
that would be the right
energy
mix.
to compensate the
Absolutely.
loss during this gestation period.
Absolutely right.
So,
May I
okay,
add
I'll
one?
give you 1 minute.
Okay. Basically, in Germany, we have a radiation factor of 4,000 kilowatt as is basic factor. Here, you have nearly double the factor. So you can imagine how much power you can gain with the same type of a system which we are putting in Germany or in India at the same time over here. So that is the answer. You're doubling your capacity and you're doubling your revenue at the same time.
Okay, on that note, I'd like to thank you very much for coming on this show, and I hope we'll have a more interaction in future. So
Thank you very much. I must thank BBS for this good discussion that you could conduct in a short time. So congratulations to BBS.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with this note also, I'd like to thank our viewers for joining to watch this program. Do join us every Tuesday. I'm your host, Ashok Tirwa. This is goodbye.